What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Occasionally Funny. Today we have two very special guests in the hizzy, Mr. Krish Mohan and Miss Liz. Sorry, I forgot your name, last name.
Really? That's the easy one. and my first name isn't Liz either.
What?
That's why I usually lead with my last name, which is Victory, which is just a word.
Okay.
And my first name is Liss.
Liz.
With two S's.
Sorry, I cannot pronounce it.
That's
happens
fine.
all the time.
Yeah, you are not the only one. I have friends that I've had for well over a decade who still call me Liz, but it's not.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I'm so sorry.
For your listeners.
My mom has to do that too. Is like she'll correct herself because I think it's just, which is funny because it's like, hey, you have a weird name.
What's your mom's name? Okay.
Raji.
Okay.
So it's like you have a weird name too, man. Like how do you not get the weird names right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my name's Jorge Macha in the South, and nobody. It's hard. We all have names.
What's your favorite butchering of your name?
Oh, first name. This actually happened a couple of weeks ago in Centralia, Illinois. I don't know if you've ever been
spot.
or driven by. Johan.
What?
Johan.
No way.
Well, I think I introduced myself to the host, and he might have not heard me, and it was only one time. I was like, hey, man, my name's Jorge. Yeah. And his name was Two. And I was like, in my head, I was like, did he just say Toot? Toot. And I was like, he's like, no, Two, it's T-E-W. And I was like, that is weird, too.
That's like the number?
T-E-W.
T-E-W.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he was very funny. I got a guy from St. Louis, Southeast Missouri area.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
Very good. But yeah, Johan. And so I went up on stage and I was like, hi, guys. My name's not Johan. It's Jorge. And he was laughing. And I was like, it's all right, man.
You got to do a reset of the whole fucking show.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to keep with it. Yeah. I wanted to be like, hey, my name's Johan, guys. But then I was like, I have never set up my material to Johan, so it was going to throw me off.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be like this vaguely ethnic, but maybe Swedish person.
Yeah. Why is he so brown? So, how's your all's tour been going so far?
It's been going pretty good.
First off, okay, so explain like y'all's tour.
Okay, so essentially the idea, I don't remember who came up with it. Was it you or me?
It was you.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
because I thought it wouldn't work.
Oh yeah. So I've done like musicians like opening for comedy shows before.
Yeah.
Because it's just a fun way to open a show because you get the crowd involved a lot sooner. It's like, so usually like a host doesn't have to go up and be like, all right, here's 10 minutes of preamble rules to get you guys settled in. Like if there's a musician opening the show, it just settles the crowd and then like you can roll right in.
Yeah.
And it's like the musicians get to perform in front of a nice warm audience as well. So we wanted to do a tour together in 2016, and we were like, let's just. And she was basically like, I'll go find a gig, and you'll go find a gig, and we'll work together. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's gonna be real difficult because it's like it'll split the crowd. Either like I'll have a good show or she will have a good show, and like somebody's gonna be missing out on something. So I said, fuck it, let's just combine our efforts.
Right.
You know, like we'll figure out what we need to do for formatting. So the first couple shows were a little bit of an experiment in 2016, and we basically found out that listening rooms work really, really well.
Yeah. Where
crowds like really focus on the show, and that's what they're there for. And if you open with music and close with music, it's a nice way to bookend the middle part. And I don't think we really figured that out until we got to, Albuquerque the first time. That's whenever we really did that, when we had a musician open, we had one of the comics that booked the show go up, and then we had a guy that did a one-man sketch show. It was amazing.
Was it?
Like he just did these little character vignettes, and it was really well done. 15 minutes, real quick kind of thing. And then I went up, and then Liss went up. So it ended up being like, we were like, oh, that's it. That's what we need to do with it, because it's the easiest way to ease an audience into what the show is about. So this time we kind of had a little bit better of an understanding of what we were looking for. So like when we came to people like you that book shows in especially cities we've never been to,
right.
It's a lot easier to be like, we're looking for like a listening room environment.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I know exactly what venue to put you in. You know, this is what the deal is. Let me go make sure the date's available, blah, blah, blah. So the tour's been going pretty good. We've had some ups and downs.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. But we also decided, like, I think the part where we kind of miscalculated was we went into the Dakotas over the summer. And if you're going to do that, don't. Yeah. Because what you're competing with is weather, because it's really nice out in a part of the country that doesn't face good weather.
Yeah.
So everybody's outside for whatever.
Yeah.
Beer festivals, music festivals, and I think like big jazz festivals and stuff. So it's like a lot of this outdoor stuff. So people don't want to be inside in a part of the country where like they get maybe 3 months of that.
Right. So
essentially what we should have done is cut through the plains, hit the Northeast, worked our way south, and then worked through the country. But so that's like a learning curve for us. And it kind of sucked because it was also the time where like we had the longest drives, because it's like driving through Montana and Wyoming and like the Dakotas, and like these are vast parts of the country. And so we were like tired, and the shows weren't going well, and we're like, this is a fucking bummer, man. Like, we just drove 6 hours to either not do a show or do a show in front of just genuinely disinterested people.
Right.
And not to say like that's, but it's like most of the crowd's not there for us, and the people that are there for us are having a hard time like enjoying the show.
Right, because of these people.
Yeah. Like in Fargo, everybody was really cool, and we got like 2 tables of like maybe 7 or 8 people that were attentive to the show, but a fucking party bus showed up to the brewery, and that's not the brewery's fault, and that's not the booker's fault. It's just like unfortunate circumstances. And they were just like super loud, but by the end of my set they pieced. So she got to play to like the people that wanted to be there,
Gotcha.
Which was nice, but it was still like, okay, it's a super small crowd,
right?
And we'll like make the best of it, because that's what you got to do in situations like that. But I think it would have been a lot easier if we weren't coming off like 3 6-hour drives in a row.
God, yeah.
And in a week where we had some challenges of like one of our shows got canceled, and then we had to face like a party bus. So aside from that, like the tour's been really good.
Yeah.
You get to see the country, you get to meet all like really cool people, all walks of life.
Right.
And like you get to learn more stuff.
Yeah.
Like it kind of gives you a new perspective of what is out there.
Right.
Instead of just kind of being stuck in your own bubble, which is
absolutely
one of the best things about traveling in any capacity.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's a tour or you're just kind of going cross countries, like you really get to understand how people in different parts of the country live, and it's just one of those things where it's like, even like the difference between like being in Montana versus being in Seattle is crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost a different country all in all.
Yeah.
The feeling is different, the vibe of the people are different. Is one better than the other? It's like it's really not a fair question, because it's comparing apples and oranges in my opinion.
I disagree.
I know you disagree.
Well, like we went so I proposed in Maine. We went. So what we typically do.
That's adorable.
When Laura Lee and I travel, we pick regions.
Yeah.
Instead of like a city, or so we went to DC, New York, Boston, and Maine. But so we stayed in DC for 3 days, and we actually had a blast. Like I really thought that was going to be my least favorite part of this trip, and it was my favorite. Because like I mean, they had all the museums that were free, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
They had a Capitol Hill tour that was also free, and the guide was phenomenal. Like I mean, he was funny, he was informative, it was great. So we got to do all that stuff, and then we went. Of course, you know, like Washington D.C., Boston, and New York kind of have the same vibe, like city. Everybody's like in a hurry, kind of vibe. Yeah. And then you get to Maine, and it's like it's the south of the north.
It is.
Or if I'm saying that right. Yeah. Because we drove by, or we were driving through, and I mean just trucks, like lifted trucks, big tires, country music, and we're just like, we're in fucking Kentucky. Kentucky again, man. This is very weird, and it feels very homey to us right now. But it was great, man. That was a fun trip. I went from Burlington to Portland last October. Burlington, Vermont. Okay. And even that is so different. And you like that was the thing is like the show was kind of weird because it was in a very nice bar, very nice cocktail bar, upscale drinks and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think I got the right impression of what Burlington has to offer because it seemed like it wasn't the type of venue that Burlington is sort of known for because it's this really liberal city, right? Yeah. Like Ben & Jerry's is there, Bernie Sanders is from there. But when I was driving to Burlington and out of Burlington, that was the same thing because you have to. You need those lifted tires. You need those big fucking like monster truck looking things. Right. Because when it's wintertime, like it is absurd weather up there, and like that's what they were saying was like even in October, it's you take your chances in being outside. Yeah. Because you might not see this for months. Right. And it is. It's like you're like, oh shit, am I in the South? Yeah. Like, but it's also when you get to those cities, like there's a lot more of a relaxed attitude. Yeah. People are a lot more chill in those cities because it's smaller cities. Right. You know, it's not hustle and bustle like DC and New York and Chicago and all that. Yeah. So, which I kind of enjoy while I'm there. Right. You know, and then it's like I want to get the fuck out.
I want to get I want to get back to my shit. You know, I got stuff I want to do. Yeah. You know, I can't just mosey around looking at maple trees all day.
Right. Cows. Do you have like a favorite city or town that you guys have been through besides Paducah?
The East Coast is the only coast that matters. I really only want to be in cities, ever. And New York City is the greatest city in the world.
New York City's fun. We went, we stayed at an Airbnb there, and we took a gelato making class while we were there. And
what?
Yeah, it was great. It was a fun time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, New York's fun. They got a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna lie, it's very overwhelming. Yeah. Because I've been there a couple of times, and the first time it was for a couple of comedy things, and then of course, it was 3 comedy things, and then 2 canceled. Because somebody was gonna go, I think it was Seinfeld was gonna go in, and they were just like, we're just gonna do Seinfeld. And we were like...
That's, yeah.
Okay, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Because I was like 2 years in, and I wasn't gonna be like, what?
Yeah, so you're not following Seinfeld.
Right. And luckily I took my parents because it was a bringer show, and when you're that young you're like, I will do whatever. Yeah. And now they're like, can you bring 15 people? And you're like, bye. So my parents went with me, and they had never been either, so I was really excited to show them. Of course my parents have seen like New York City on Univision, on like the Spanish channels, like just being shown and stuff, so they were really excited. And one of my best friends from Florida, because I used to live in Florida for about a year, and in my sophomore year of high school, and I met my buddy Brandon there, and he was visiting family in New York City, and he ended up getting DUI, and he had to stay in New York to finish his classes.
Yeah.
Like they forced him to do classes. And so when I was going, he was there, and I was like, dude, invite the people in your class to the comedy show. Clearly they like to drink. So, which actually he did, and it was the biggest fucking, like, fiasco ever, because he had one buddy, he's from Trinidad and Tobago. So they love to party. So he had a couple of people from his class come, and one guy, since I brought like 7 people, one guy, they put me kind of near the end, I guess, just to kind of hold people in the room. Yeah. Dude, this guy got so hammered before one person before I got up, and he was on the fucking floor. They had to like take him out. They're like, yo, you gotta take this dude home. And I was like, this is my audience. And then I had to pay the bill, because my mom was like, you invited them, you have to pay their drinks. And I was like, it's like $100 and something. And so I lost my ass there, but I got to perform in front of Mike DiStefano, who passed away like 2-3 years ago. And a couple other people that I can't remember the names, but he was the most memorable one, because he was the last comic standing. So
he's one of those like underground legends. You know, it's like him, Dom Herrera, like Tommy Johnigan, not necessarily famous, but like these guys are like heavyweights in the road world, because like Dom Herrera fucking toured for years, and he's just like, what's great about him now is he's just a dirty old man, like that's just what he is, and he loves to fuck with people, like that's because he's from Philly, so like that's what he grew up to.
He's from like Irish family, right? From Philly, so he's angry all the time.
Oh man,
and it's great.
And Tommy Johnigan is a beast that like you put him in front of any crowd, and he is one of those dudes that like you can't do or say anything to stop this guy. Because he will come back at you with like, you insult him on stage, and he'll come back at you with like some deep psychological shit, which is like hilarious to everybody else. But that person's like, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm like my dad that much. Whatever. I'm just gonna get another beer. Whatever. Like, and Tommy's just like, he's one of those guys. Like, I remember watching when I was a kid, and I was like, this dude is fucking monster. Because he crushes everything.
He's from St. Louis, right?
I think so. I can't remember where he's from, but he was one of those guys that I think he won Last Comic Standing at one point, or he got.
He was like in the top 5, maybe top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I think he got either he won or he got close.
Yeah. And
I think for like Road Dogs, Tommy Johnigan winning Last Comic Standing like meant something to Road Comics. I was, I think this was like when I was just getting out of college, so I hadn't really started working the road. But like once I started working the road, and like you kind of think about things in retrospect, that was one of those things. It was like, man, if a fucking road comic won Last Comic Standing, like that's huge. Like that boosts everybody doing this blue collar comedy thing. Not in blue collar meaning like you're making a living off of comedy. You're not really rich and famous. And I think a lot of road comics were disappointed. I can't remember who won.
I remember Dat Fan beat Ralphie May. Eliza Schlesinger won one of the seasons. Josh Blue won another.
That's right. Was it Felipe Esparza?
Felipe Esparza won another.
I think Felipe was the one that beat Tommy Johnigan. And it was like a huge upset for everybody in the road world. That was like, this is bullshit kind of thing. But, it's a television show. At the end of the day, it's a TV show. Like Tommy's still fucking slaying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ralphie May came in second, and he went on to way more things than Dat Fan. So,
And from my understanding, I think that Fan couldn't keep up his like material. to being a headliner status. He'd never been that before.
Right.
And I think Ralphie was already on that.
Oh yeah.
On that track.
Yeah.
And same thing with like, I think Felipe did well after that. After he won.
Yeah, he's still doing okay. Yeah.
And so I mean, everybody that's been on that show does well.
Yeah.
You know, like Dave Landau does well.
Oh, Dave's hilarious. Yeah.
Dave's amazing.
Yeah.
I watched him at an Irish bar in what's this city? Port Huron? Yeah, I think Port Huron. And I watched him do a like 15, 16-minute story, and I think it ended up being on This Is Not Happening on Comedy Central. So I got to see like the first version of that. And I think he was like, I think I've done that once on stage. But it's all about like how he wound up being in the mental institution because he would get caught underage drinking, and they were like, look, you can either go to prison or we can lock you up in a psych ward for 3 days. And it's one of the best fucking stories.
Right.
He's so good.
Yeah, I saw his... Because I saw him... he did some stuff for Gotham. So he did some stuff for that. And then the next time I saw him on TV, it was for a preview for This Is Not Happening. And he changed his hair.
Yeah. He got a little mohawk situation. Yeah.
Which completely changed his stage persona because he was like just a clean cut comic that was, just doing, I mean, he was still doing killer material. And then the next thing I see is him being like a punk rock kind of guy, which I never saw coming.
No.
It was it was really weird.
I've worked with him twice, and he is one of those, like, he's one of those guys that watches your set. And I just remember I was in Lansing at the Comedy Connections, which is not a club anymore. And I was just hosting, and I was, we were talking before the show, and he was like, "You're from Pittsburgh, like, why did you take a hosting spot in Lansing?" And I was like, "I'm just trying to get in with the fucking booking agency, man." And he goes, "That's props, man. Not a lot of people would do that, blah, blah, blah." And he was super nice. And I went up, and I had, like, a terrible set.
Yeah.
Where the crowd wasn't on board with what I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. They liked some of the racial stuff that I was doing, like, making fun of my mom kind of thing. Yeah. And then I went on to my one of my closers at the time was a story about how I wrote a letter about boobs, and I gave it to some girl in high school, and she got freaked out, and then we got in trouble. So, like, the whole thing is about, like, fucking up and getting redemption. It was like the first real attempt at long form for me. And she's I don't know if you've ever seen that bit. I think I've told you about it, but I don't think you ever, I don't think I was doing it when you and I started dating. But I fucking tanked real hard, and I felt real shitty about it, and like the club owner came over and like said some nice things, which helped. And then like after the show, like Dave comes over and he goes, that it's really nice to see young comics take risks. Yeah. And he's like, it didn't go well, but like you took the risk. Yeah. And I know where the jokes are. Yeah. And he's like, you just need to tighten them. Yeah. Like I like the story, but you need to tighten it. Like it's a dirty story. It's a nice youthful story. It fits your persona. And I was just like, you paid attention. Right. You don't fucking have to do that at all. Yeah. So like it's like Dave's one of those people that taught me, like, regardless of where you are in this industry, or like how many credits you have, how many years you've been in, like, man, if you just take that time to be like, hey, I really like this story about your mom. Yeah. And how she tries to negotiate food with you. Like that's a really, just paying attention to what comics do, like, shows you give a shit. Yeah. And like that's a huge thing. Like he made it okay for me to care. Right. Essentially. Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of headliner stories, but I'm sure you know Chad Daniels, right?
Yes.
So one of my buddies, I've never been the booking type, like cold call places and just be like, hey, comedy show. I've never been that guy.
Yeah.
But my friend, been doing it for 10 years. This is about 8 years ago, 7 years ago. No, 8 or 9 years ago. It was very close to the beginning. And he called the University of Kentucky. Somehow, he got us on at the Cat's Den to open up for Chad Daniels.
That's awesome.
And I'd seen him on Comedy Central Presents, like the half hour.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a half hour special that he did. And it didn't register until I saw him. And I was like, oh shit, this guy's been on Comedy Central. Like, I was super nervous at that point and excited. And I'm about to go up. And, I had just been talking to him a little bit. And he goes, hey, Jorge, don't fuck up. And I was like, okay, man. And I went up, completely forgot, like, my first shit.
Oh, no.
Which was actually, in a way, was tied into my first bit, which was about, like, forgetting something, which I forgot about now. But I mean, I didn't do that at all. Like, I didn't do well at all. I got some chuckles because it was a younger crowd, like my age.
Yeah.
So they could kind of relate. So I got off, and he was gonna go on, and for whatever reason, I was trying to be a smartass, and not like in a mean way. Like, I wasn't gonna like be an asshole to a headliner, but I was like, hey Chad, don't fuck up. He goes, nope, I'm a professional. And I was like, God damn it.
That's great.
I was like, fuck. But
that's a response.
He's great, man. I'll ask him questions. I'll Facebook him and whatever, and he actually gets back, and it's nice that somebody like that, takes the time to respond, and he's fucking great. So, but like Joey Diaz is
cool.
He's the same kind of guy. If you message him, most of the time he'll get back to you. And I helped him with a spot here at Etc., the coffee shop, which really, looking back, probably should have just had you do it there. Because one, Dylan already hosts that.
Okay.
So,
that's right.
And then two, there's an audience there that's very. It would have fit us perfectly. Yeah. And I mean, they probably could have passed around a tip bucket. Yeah. And it could have been way better.
Yeah, we've done shows where they passed the tip bucket and like, genuinely been surprised. Like, I think the 2 house shows we did in Phoenix and Huntsville were like, we were just so, it's like shocked. Yeah. As far as what people put into the bucket. Yeah, man. Like, it was very, very generous of them.
Yeah. That Centralia's show, I mean, there were 12, 15 people in the room, and I mean, we came out with pretty good money. Yeah. Like, we were just like, oh shit, and we just split it 3 ways. It was my buddy DJ went with me, and then the host. We showed up, and I saw the host, which I knew was going to be a black guy, and the only black person there, and I was like, hey bro, and he's like, what's up, man? I was like, oh, I'm one of the other comics, my other buddy's outside, and we looked around, and I was like, is this it? And he's like, probably. I was like, well, shit, let's get it. I was like, is there any other comics? He's like, nope, just us. And I was like, fuck it, all right. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, that was great. And next time, Etc., I think it'd be the perfect spot, man. Because the ages range from like 14 to like 65, but everybody's really cool and chill, and unless you go on like a rant, like a crazy who's the guy from Kramer, unless you get one of those
if you're
rants,
dropping the N-bomb bunch,
right? Then they'll be like, get out of here. But Dylan lets me go up and try stuff out, so that's really where I usually work out like the first draft. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that didn't work very well. So, you move stuff around. But
that sounds like our Ham Bones. Yeah. In Pittsburgh. I feel like Ham Bones is a place where we're like, hey, this is not a finished song, but I'm going to give it a shot, or like, here's an idea I've been toying around with, because the audience is like, it's half performers, and on a really good night, it's like, on a really good night, it's a quarter performers, 3/4 like audience members that stay there. So like the room's packed. Yeah. On a decent night, it's half and half. Yeah. And on a real shit night, it's mostly performers who are still like really good audience members.
Yeah.
You know, like Liss has done stuff where you've gone up and done like new shit on stage with Hambones.
Yeah, they're really good about that stuff. Yeah. They're really inviting. It's nice. Like, there's a new song I've been working on for a lot of this tour that I've thought about playing a few times, but it's like I want to save it for an open mic, because that's like what the open mic is for.
Right.
It's for testing new or maybe even unfinished material. Yeah. So I've been really hesitant to sort of bust it out. It's not done either, but I've been kind of obsessed with it because I'm always obsessed with the new stuff. I don't know if you guys get obsessed with your new stuff.
Okay. Yeah, especially when you're like, I feel good. Like, this is me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's working. Oh, fuck, it's best.
And it also, like, really fits my mood. No, that's, like, really validating. Because I just like to know I'm not the only one in certain situations.
Well, I try to explain to Laura because, you know, occasionally we have the conversation of, oh, why are you doing this? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, when you have an idea and it makes you laugh, like, I'll be driving and I'll be thinking of something and I'm like, fuck. Like, you just know. You know at that point, you're like, I can work this into making it 2-3 minutes long. You start getting goosebumps. You're like, yeah, like, this is going to fucking work at some point, you know?
Yeah.
And then you go to an open mic and it eats shit and you're like, fuck. But there's something there.
There might be, I got it. Maybe.
Yeah. But I love, and I talk about it, etc., man, because there's something to be said about a place that you can go and just fuck around with an idea. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's just, we have a lot of local guys that are always like, man, we need more open mics, and I get it, they want to do comedy open mics, but I'm like, you guys need to go to this coffee shop and try stuff out, man, because when we do comedy open mics in a small town like this, they're almost promoted as shows, and it's like, you're gonna go and do this open mic that people think it's a show, because comedy around here, as you may have gathered, is kind of new. Like, it's if it's not Jeff Dunham or Larry the Cable Guy, people are like, what's this, you know?
Right.
And you're gonna have this, and then people are gonna think it's a show, and then you're gonna try out new stuff and it's gonna eat shit, and then people are gonna be like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to go to an experience like that. So when you have an open mic with music, poetry, comedy, it's just so nice for you to go up and people are like, yeah, we understand you're working on something.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't judge. We might have not liked a couple of pussies in there, you know, a little word, but you know, we will let it slide, and you're figuring it out. So
yeah, it's what's cool about those kind of open mics, and I've said that to comics too, is like, I started doing music open mics probably, was it 2012 is when I started like venturing and dipping my toes into like music open mics. And I was like the only comic there.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, some of the people from those music open mics regularly come to see me when I'm doing a big show.
Yeah.
But it's because when I went there and I was like, here's an idea and it's probably going to fail.
Yeah.
Like, there's like stages to everybody's comedy.
Yeah.
You know? Like when I started when I was 16, which is like dumb because you're not a person, like, but you're not, like, you're just a child,
right?
But that was like, that phase was like, for me, I would say like between 16 and 19 was me doing Russell Peters mixed with Dane Cook. You know?
Yeah, well,
because those were the two big dudes that I was like,
right.
This is fucking comedy.
Yeah.
But really, like, what I wanted to do was Hicks, Carlin, Pryor, you know, like what Janine Garofalo was doing, David Cross, all these people, like, those are the people where I was like, this is, how do you do, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about real shit.
Right.
But I didn't know how to do that till I was like 24.
Right.
I was talking about race and religion and stuff when I was in college. So then I transitioned into like doing long form stories, like what I did when I bombed in front of Dave Landau. But that led me to doing this type of stuff, and which this type of stuff meaning is idea based. There's a thesis statement to what I'm working on, and I'm working on like an hour total. And each time I try to do a new hour, it's all done differently.
Yeah.
Which is great, because it keeps me like excited for not just like the process of it, but like when I went from telling stories and working on these short snippet ideas to let's dig deep and explore some stuff, it was a full reset. And I went to the music open mics and I fucking ate shit.
Yeah.
But what was cool about those people is like they listened.
Right.
And then they would come up to me and be like, have you read Chomsky?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what he says about this topic? Or have you read this person? Or have you considered this thought? And it all, like, feeds into it because, like, they understand that it's new. They understand that I'm, like, figuring it out as I'm walking through life.
Right.
And what was really awesome is, like, the feedback wasn't like, man, you need to fucking cut it out. It was, here's something that might help you figure out where you're going and then build on the idea and find jokes within it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so amazing about those groups.
Yeah.
So I would tell comics, like, go to this mic and really try something out.
Yeah.
Like, do your exploring, do your new shit, and see what the crowd is saying.
Yeah.
Because in a music open mic, they're really listening.
Right.
Like, every little detail.
Yeah.
You know, like the listening room environment is what these are in.
Yeah.
And like when people are really listening, like I think it makes you a better comic because you're a lot more deliberate about things.
Yeah.
You're a lot more deliberate about you're thinking about different things, you know. So I think that's invaluable to any comic to step out of their comfort of stand-up open mics.
Yeah, and you know, if you get to do clubs regularly, obviously, even if it's an open mic club, you want to do your best stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
That's why to me, it's like I love when I get an opportunity to go to Zanies in Nashville.
Yeah.
And, you know, do like a showcase or whatever. But as much as I love that, I love being able to be like, okay, so I did this today. This upcoming Friday, there's a open mic in Paducah, etc. And then I can fuck around, and it makes me feel kind of good because I'm like, okay, like I don't have to like stress over it. So, so yeah, I love it. But
that's part of the reason why I think I realized that this show, that the tour that we're doing, would work. Yeah. And for the most part, it has. Yeah. Because of my experience with music open mics and hanging out with musicians and like building these variety shows. Yeah. And it's something different, you know? Yeah. Especially when we go to, I don't know, like San Francisco, for example, has a lot of comedy, has a lot of music, but like when you put it together, I think there's a little bit of a deeper appreciation for what is going on and like how these art forms are mixing and being showcased in a more holistic manner. That's a good description.
Holistic?
We should write that down. Yeah, okay. As I was saying, I was like, "This is great. We should, that's good for press."
Yeah, man. I think etc. would have been perfect for you guys, and if in hindsight, obviously,
it's all a learning process.
Yeah, man, it would have been perfect. Which I want to apologize again for the shit show it was at first, because typically, like, when we do stuff there, they kind of set it up.
Yeah.
And by the way, Night Moves has always been great to the comics, and when we put stuff on there, they've been like, tell us what we need to do, and we'll do it, and get it ready for the show. Especially the owners, man. Most of the time, they're there and they love it. And what I noticed this time around, and it might have been my fault because I wasn't completely mentally there. Obviously, the sound wasn't set up, which I should have been there earlier to set it up. My bad. The mic stand, I didn't even think about. Because normally I don't produce stuff, and then Dylan was like, "Hey, is there a microphone stand?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fuck." Which for you guys listening, I'm gonna tell you guys what happened. So I'm home, and I get a message from Krish and Dylan separate.
Yeah.
Which I thought, because I was like, I thought we were in a group message. What's going on?
Yeah.
So I get a message. Hey, are you on your way? We're here. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I literally live 5 minutes away. And I get there at like 7:45.
Like 6. I'd say 6. Oh yeah, no, 7:45. Yeah.
And I go in there, and it looks like the staff is not ready for what's about to happen. That was my...
it was... I mean, it was kind of... That's what we were like, does the staff not know?
Right.
Is Jorge supposed to set it up?
Yeah.
Or is it like that? We were kind of confused about it. And like, we asked them, like, should we set anything up? And they were like, oh no, he'll take care of it. As in, you'll take care of it. And we were like, okay. Which is part of the reason why we were like, I guess we'll just wait.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the staff was super friendly to us. Like, Crystal was very nice to us.
Yeah, no, and they were great. But I walked in and I was like, there's no like sense of urgency, and it's like 10 minutes of showtime.
Right.
And so I kind of went into like a little panic mode, and then I saw the speakers, but the speakers were playing music, the system that we're supposed to use, and I was like, I don't want to just cut off what they have, so I'm trying to get the bartender's attention. I'm like, can we use the sound system? She's like, yeah. And then she walked away, and I was like, okay. So then I started unplugging stuff, and I started moving it, and I was like, do you guys have a microphone? And one of the ladies was like, yeah. So, okay. And then Dylan was like, microphone stand? And I'm like, can we... I was like, no, they don't have one. Can we make one? That was I was like, do we have tape? And we'll just bring a chair over and just scrunch down a little bit. It'd just be like at your level. And he's like, yeah, no. And I was like, okay. So then we walked outside and we're like, is there any places here that would play music? Maybe that would have one. We looked around and it's just financial advisors and nail salons. So I was like, nope. And then you talk to us and you're like, we can start about 8:20. I was like, give me 20. Yeah, I was like, if you give me 20 minutes, I can go buy one.
Well, yeah, that's what we asked the bar, and we're like, have we taken cover? And they were like, we got one table.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so we haven't really taken any cover from anybody. That's fine. So that's why I was like, let's go do that. We'll start the show a little bit late.
Yeah.
I think we can let people know. And everybody that was there was pretty okay with what was going right. Yeah, they were very patient, and that's part. And then and I think you went to Etc. to grab a mic stand.
Yeah, so I went to Best Buy, nothing there. Went to Walmart, nothing there. And the advice I was getting was just like, order it online or go to this music store, which it was closed. Like, I'm like, come on now, like, I need it now.
Yeah.
And then I messaged Dylan, and I was like, I have to go to Etc. I have no other options. And at this point, it was like almost like a nightmare scenario where you're like, I said I was going to be back in 20 minutes, and it feels like it's been 4 hours. Like, and nobody's messaging me back. So obviously I didn't really know you guys, and I was like, nobody's messaging me back. I think they left. so I ended up going all the way down to Etc., taking the worst route possible with the most traffic I've ever seen. It seems like, right?
Right.
You're like,
always.
Every time you're in a rush.
Yeah.
And I run in there, and this open mic is it's packed. And I go talk to the barista, and I'm like, hey, man, I need to borrow the other microphone stand. Is that cool? I'll bring it back tomorrow. He's like, yeah, man, go ahead. So I walk around, and I have to, like, there's people recording this girl that's singing up there, you know, some friends. And I see this girl, like, in the corner. I see the other mic stand, and I'm like, I need that mic stand. Yeah. And she's like, what? I was like, a mic stand. She looks behind, and, of course, she tries to be stealthy, but...
It's a mic stand.
It's a mic stand, and it's, like, the entrance is, you know, where the kitchen is.
Yeah.
The stage is where it's right here, and the girl that was gonna grab it for me was right here next to her, so she had to like grab it and then go across the room to give it to me, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And I just hauled ass, but then I took like a back road that has absolutely no lights and no traffic, and I was like, why did I do this to begin with? And I looked down at my watch, and it's 8:45, and I'm like, son of a bitch, they haven't texted me back. And I get there, and you know, you're on stage, and I was like, son of a bitch. Like, it was just like the worst, like.
Yeah, Dylan was like, is there something we can do to stall? And I was like, I don't know. We were trying to figure out how to play house music, and we didn't realize, like, they were like, oh, Bluetooth. So we were like trying to connect our phones to this speaker system. And we didn't realize that it's in the fucking speaker. Like, they're just playing whatever's
there's like
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't know that. So Dylan started playing just like really beautiful acoustic.
Oh man, he's great.
Ambiance. Yeah. Like, he was really that kind of settled things down a little bit. And I just said, hey, if Jorge's not back by 8:45. I'll kick it off. I'll do some tour stories, and then when he's here, if I've been on stage for like 30 minutes or something, which I doubt, it
felt like.
Well, yeah.
to me, I was like, fuck. Like, it was a real nightmare scenario, and then.
But I think that's whenever the tension started. Yeah. Is when I went on stage. Is like I started talking about some tour stories. And, like, I don't think, I don't know, I never think what I'm saying is all that contentious, although I know that it's contentious. And even in the tour stories, like, I have some material about President George W. Bush Parkway in Dallas, So, like, I'm not a big fan of the guy, so we kind of did that, and I could see some people not feeling great about it, and I was like, all right, I tried to get through that, and then I saw you walk in, so I was like, all right, I'll tell the last story about the car trouble, and then I'll bring up Dylan, and like, it'll be like sort of the official kickoff of the show.
Right.
And everything, I think, was going all right with it, and I noticed a little bit, I was like, I don't know if they're just like, we don't care for this person because of the fact that the show started late or whatever, or like we're getting restless. But I noticed there was a little bit of discomfort, and I think the women in the back of the room, you had to like tell them to be quiet or something. Like, what was going on? Yeah, I think you were more there.
I was not more there.
Well,
I got food poisoning from eating a mayo packet that had been in our hot car for like several weeks.
Worst.
It tasted fine. I just really like mayo on my corn dogs from Sonic. So I got sick like right before all of this happens, and I'm a control freak, and I like things a certain way, and I freak out when there's not house music and all this other shit. Yeah. And I'm just like in so much pain that I can't even think. So I'm like, I'm fucked. So I said, give me the merch case, and I'll set up merch, because it's like all I'm capable of doing.
Yeah.
So there's these ladies who are at a table near the back, and they're talking at this point so loud to me, who's also kind of toward the back, that I can't hear Krish, who's like talking through a PA. Yeah. I'm like, maybe the people up front can hear him, and I'm not coherent enough to handle this. So I lean over to you, Jorge, and I'm like, Jorge, maybe you can handle this with a little more finesse.
Yeah. And when you said it, it didn't register to me that you wanted me to do it at that very moment. And I was like, oh, she means whenever I get up on stage, call him out. And so I was watching you, right? And then I'm like, hold on, did you mean now? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay.
And even the way I told you was awful. I'm like, can you just stop your little hen house of chatter? See, I can't do it. You're gonna handle it much better. You're a nice looking young gentleman. Go quell the situation because I'm just gonna
talk
make it
to
worse.
the cougars.
Yeah, and I went over there, and without being like, bitches, shut up. I was like, hey guys, I kind of went over there and made myself small. I was like, can you just keep it lower? And they're like, yeah. And then they were like, we're leaving. And I was like,
well,
okay.
That was the weird part about that table was because I walked up to them and they were like, this is a comedy show. And I said, yes, it's also music. And they're like, what? And I was like, this is the first time anybody's been upset about music being present at a bar that plays music most of the time. And I was like, yes, it's a little bit of both. It's comedy and music. We're kind of doing this tour together. My fiance's a musician, blah blah blah. And they're like, okay, but there's gonna be comedy, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. So I told them what the situation was, and they seemed real weird about there being music there. And I was like, all right. Maybe the bar didn't advertise it because it does say comedy show on their calendar and stuff like that. So then we kicked off the show. Dylan did great.
Yeah.
He's so that was really great music.
Yeah.
He's very talented.
Oh man, I love Dylan, dude. He's
so good.
He's been hosting. So a little backstory, and we'll get back to the night moves. But so when that open mic started, it was I think we just had the 11th year. Every Friday except for holidays. Mm-hmm. It's been going on for 11 years, no joke, and which is to me is amazing because I've been all over this country and done non-comedy club open mics.
Yeah. And
most of the time they last 2 years tops.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Anyway, so the people that started that hosted that for about 2-3 years, and then I started hosting, and then my buddy Snacks, who's an amazing slam poet, I'll let you listen to some of his stuff. He hosted it for a little while, and then Dylan kind of took over, and he's been doing it for I feel like 3 or 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean he's there every Friday. He's great. So yeah, man. Whenever you were looking for somebody to play, I was like, "Fuck Dylan!" For sure. He's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. And I felt really bad too when I got there because I didn't know she was not feeling great.
Yeah.
I didn't know she had just basically eaten arsenic.
Poison yourself.
Yeah. And so I thought, I'm sure she was a little upset at me, but I was like, I think she's super mad. It's me. It's me. I didn't know it was and so I was like, oh no. I was like, I gotta definitely go tell these ladies to shut the fuck up.
That's so funny.
And,
I was in severe physical pain. You just personalized it.
She does that with me too, but it's also I'm that kind. I'm a super anxious person.
Yeah.
So whenever people aren't feeling great and I don't know what the information is,
yeah.
I'm like, what fuck, dude.
Yeah.
And then I'm running through. I'm like, okay, so what was it?
Yeah.
Okay, was it the car wash? No.
Right.
Did I say something?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Was it Albuquerque 2, 3, 5 weeks ago?
Yeah. Shit. So, but then she was like, I'm not feeling well, and I was like, oh, did you? Because I think I talked to you earlier. It was I think she had a sip of my coffee, which had whole milk in it.
Yeah.
And I think it acted really fast because she can't process dairy.
Gotcha.
But then at the end of the night, she goes, "Oh, I also had that hot mayo packet." And I was like, "Oh, well, no fucking wonder, man. Like, that's..."
I like how you didn't go straight to Sonic instead of your coffee. You were like, it was the coffee. It could have been the corn dog.
It could have also been the corn dog.
No,
We haven't
I
had
have those corn
bad
dogs all the
experiences,
time.
yeah.
That's like my go-to Sonic treat.
Yeah. That is,
corn
yeah.
dog. It's cheap. It's dog. It's great.
So, I did my set. I'm gonna try to pull up the post. What we'll eventually talk about. and like I just wanted to go up, and I was like, all right, I think what would be good in this crowd, because when I saw the table, I looked at it and I was like, okay, these seem like they're a little bit more conservative folks, and even based on some of the stuff that they were laughing at your material, because you had jokes about like the children in cages and like separating families,
right?
Immigration reform type stuff, and I could kind of see like they're not doing well with this. Like they don't kind of understand what Jorge seems to be saying.
Oh, I love that, because like I'm trying to like, I don't think that a lot of the times with, and in my defense, I didn't really do a lot of my material that night because of the crowd. I was like, if I start just jumping into my stuff, I'm gonna lose them, and we already have only 7 people.
Right.
So I was like, the best way that I know how to handle this is by doing a little bit of crowd work, getting them involved, and then taking it from there, and then transitioning into some of my materials, and of course the food thing with my mom, like that's new, so I'm kind of still trying to work on that.
Oh, it's so funny.
And then
It's my favorite.
Yeah, and then I went
so
to the kids in cages thing, which I added a couple of things like, I'm talking to these kids and I'm like, oh, where are you from? Honduras? Guatemala? Where's the Canadian kids?
That's such a great line.
But yeah, and I was up there and I was like, okay, I mean, it was expected, like the reaction from them to me, I was expected.
Yeah. The story that I did is a story about, like, and it's a true story about what happened. It's just a story about her conservative uncle and aunt, and we went over to their house and we're hanging out and talking about the engagement, and she proposed to me, blah blah blah, and it gets to the point where we talk about my mom who had gotten her citizenship, and this is true, is there's a point where everybody stands up and says, I solemnly swear to defend this nation. And the line is, why do you want my 5'2", 55-year-old Indian mom to go fight a bunch of terrorists that you guys created?
Right.
Did you run out of 18-year-olds to con?
Yeah.
To keep this endless cycle of war going on and on to feed into this capitalistic system that's clearly dying by creating more poverty, distraction, and divide.
Too many big words for that audience.
Too many big words. I know. And then I said, if that's the case, and just say that, I'll at least appreciate your honesty. Then maybe I'll send my 5'2", 55-year-old Indian mom to go slap the shit out of a bunch of terrorists that you guys created. Okay, so clearly I'm not a fan of war.
Right.
And at that point, I got to the end where I also make fun of Lockheed Martin, who, if you don't know, if there are any listeners that don't know about Lockheed Martin, they are a war manufacturer.
Absolutely.
They profit off death. Run by just a fucking psychopath of a woman, so I'm not a fan of them.
A woman?
Mm-hmm. Lockheed Martin is run by a woman.
Awesome.
It was probably one of those ladies that was in the back table. one of those psychos.
Man, they could have given us more than $5 for a cover, right? So that tripped the front table. Not Dylan's family. Dylan's family was awesome. But there's a table of 4, 3 women, 1 gentleman. And I heard them say, well, I've had just about enough. And the woman said, yeah, me too. And they stood up and they left. And I think I said, it's a small room and they're kind of leaving audibly.
Yeah.
And I was just like, hey, have a good night. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Because, it's very noticeable that you're leaving, and
Right.
you're not leaving in a cordial manner.
Right.
And the dude just snaps on me.
Yeah.
And you'll probably be able to recount this a little bit better than I can. But I think he said, as a veteran, I want to tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Oh, I was there.
Yeah.
She was in pain.
She was in pain.
I
but
was there.
She remembered some of the details of that. And I was like, okay. And I think I said, like, I'm not against you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm for veterans. I'm
Right.
for caring for veterans.
Yeah.
And he said, you're lucky I'm not... What was it? You're lucky I'm not...
You're lucky I don't tear your head off.
You're
Right.
lucky I don't tear your fucking head off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he called me a motherfucker, and his wife was like, let's just go. And then I was like, okay, well, we gotta address what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, it's an anti-war bit.
Yeah.
Every single piece of that is particularly structured based on what the war industry does.
Right.
You know, they do prey on young men that don't know exactly what to do with the rest of their lives because you're 18.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There are very few 18-year-olds that are like, you know what, this is the exact path I'm going to take and this is how I'm going to do it. No, you're an emotional horn dog and like pumped up full of hormones.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to condition somebody to go to war.
Right.
So that's what that one particular line is addressing. And the other thing is, like, we kind of created Al-Qaeda and ISIS. That's
Yes.
American interventionism did
Right.
that. And there's proof of that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Charlie Wilson's War is a movie that basically proves that. And we gave weapons, we trained these people, and then we abandoned them. That's what we did. You know, we didn't finish the job.
Right.
So, same thing with ISIS. Like, you fired a bunch of Iraqi generals that fought on your side. Of course you're going to feel betrayed.
Yeah.
And of course, it's like, I don't agree with what they did, but you got to look at the reasons for what happened to lead to the current situation.
Right.
So now, and I know there's two sides to this part too. We didn't know, like, we were like, okay, you know, that happened. That happened, and I finished my set because I felt like it was important for people that were there to at least get the rest of the show.
Right.
So I finished my set, and we packed up and we came back, and we were just kind of like a little jostled. And we were ready to go to bed, and like my nightly ritual is I'll just scroll through Facebook for like 10 minutes.
That's the worst.
It's
idea.
the stupidest thing. It's so dumb because then I like end up watching like a fucking AJ Plus or Huffington Post video, and I'm just like, look at this shit. I gotta tweet, and it's like, dude, it's 2:00. Can you go to bed? No one's fucking paying attention to what you're doing.
Right.
No one cares. Go to bed. So I saw your post, and I was like, why is Jorge apologizing?
Well, I didn't really.
No, right,
Yeah.
because I didn't have and then I scrolled down and I was like, oh no. And it was, the bar had made a public apology.
Yeah.
So we read that, and then I looked, and that post had been up for an hour, and it had gotten like over 40 likes or something, or there were 40 reactions to it, and like 21 comments,
And like 14 shares, something ridiculous.
Yeah, and it was like immediate, and I
Yeah.
was like, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So I read through some of them, and my initial thought was, should I say something on the post? And I was like, you know what? It's 2:00.
Yeah.
Whatever I say is not... It's going to be very spur of the moment, and I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I'm reacting out of my own emotions of being a little jostled about what happened, and now being a little jostled over what I'm seeing. And I also don't want to put Jorge in a bad spot. You know, you work with these people every day, and I don't want to be the person that nixes comedy shows at Night Moves because you don't represent me or what I say or the bar or anything like that. So what was interesting, though, you basically said, like, you know where I'm coming from, which was, like, very nice of you to say. But what was interesting is, like, people... It was weird as to how many people came out with, like, anti-war comments.
Oh, my goodness.
But they were all attacking the venue for it. And I'm like, the venue is not the person... Like, they're not the ones making them do that.
Right.
So we kind of, like, took a step back, and until I talked to you the next morning, I didn't know what happened to cause that post to even go up. So, like, when you told me, and I'll let you kind of fill in the blanks on that, I messaged 3 people. I messaged my friend Stuart Huff, because holy shit, has he been through the ringer.
I bet.
Jason, who are in Norfolk, Virginia, who is a phenomenal musician, plays in a band called Laurie Creek, amazing, combat veteran, and Patrick Cunningham, great comic out of Huntsville, very funny dude,
very funny,
very nice guy, runs road rooms, and these are close personal friends, and Patrick is another combat veteran.
Yeah.
And my message to them was basically telling them what happened,
mm-hmm.
and being like, I know you guys know this. Like, that bit's not anti-veteran. Like,
right.
I'm all for taking care of veterans.
Right.
You did what you needed to do. You have your reasons. You told me your reasons, and I don't judge you for it. Anybody that goes into that situation, I don't judge for. What I'm against is the system that creates a need for that.
Right.
And, they were both like, you don't have to fucking justify yourself to me. And, we were talking back and forth. And we were watching this thing escalate.
Yeah.
And both of us, for the last 2 days, have been like, what? Should we make a public statement?
Yeah.
And Patrick was like, if I see anybody shitting on you, I'm going to say something. And I was like, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. And he found the post and said very nice things.
Yeah.
Introduced himself as a honorable discharge, highly decorated combat veteran of the 2003 Iraq War, part of the 1st Armored Division, And he talks about what the bit is. The bit is anti-war. It's not anti-veteran.
Right.
I know Krish, blah, blah, blah. As a veteran, I'm also anti-war. If you give a shit about anybody in the military, you will be anti-war too. And if you care about your veterans, you would fight for making sure that they have services in place.
Right. And
are taken care of when they come home. And this is the part I think that's new to you right now. So the woman commented, the girlfriend of the veteran that got mad at me, and she says, I was there, it was offensive, you were not there. He said, we, USA in quotes, is the people who caused the terrorism in the first place. Yes.
Yeah.
I am sorry if you think that is okay. We also need to point out that he was not a white man joking about war. He was from India, disrespecting the United States.
Oh,
I'm sorry if everyone on this post says it's okay. Guess what? It's not. Free speech, fine. But it's a fine line when you're speaking terrorism and disrespecting our country. Which is like, I'm not speaking terrorism.
Right.
Is that what you think Indian people speak? Okay. Dig a hole at night to sleep with gunfire all around you, not knowing if you're ever going to see your family again, and sit and listen to this idiot blathering about us creating all of it in the first place. Again, look, if you pay attention to history, but that's fine. You haven't. Eventually, you'll find it, and have to come to terms with it. But then she goes and say, I know the owners of this club. I have the most respect for them, and I am sorry for disrupting her club. That is the only thing we are sorry about. So, it's I get it. You serve in the military, and you don't want a brown person going on stage and talking about the atrocities of war.
Right.
But you have to.
Right. Well, what gets me is she mentioned something about digging a hole and trying to sleep surrounded by gunfire. Is that some along those lines? I'm pretty sure he did not enjoy that.
I doubt it.
Right?
Yeah.
So like,
I doubt it.
To me, when I hear that, it's like we're making his point. Like nobody will wants to do that.
Right.
who in their right fucking mind? And I mean, I get it. Like, I'm not anti-vet either, but if I was drafted, or even if because I did want to go to the Navy, when I was 18 years old, because I figured that was the easiest way to get a green card, and so I was like, I'll join the military, serve, whatever, get this, get that. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be shot at. I wouldn't want to actually go to fight. If I had to, I would. Would I want to? Probably not.
No. Yeah. I don't think that's not my personality.
Right.
Patrick and I have discussed his reasons for war. Jason and I have discussed, and I've met so many veterans that come to see my show, and I always ask them, like, what was the thing that prompted you to go into the military? And a lot of people say money. I didn't have money to go to school, and they were going to pay for it,
right.
And they were going to give me an education.
Right.
I lived in a shit podunk town, and that was the only way for me to get out. I had no other way to do it.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the world.
Right.
I wanted to get my green card.
Right.
It's like, these are not good reasons for you to shove somebody into a system that strips you of your humanity and makes you kill other people. Like,
right.
We're not built for that.
Right.
So speaking out against a system that does make you do that, how is that anti-veteran is the question.
Right.
There isn't a disassociation between being anti-war and being pro-veteran.
Right.
Like, you can be both.
Right.
But if you're anti-war, you're anti-veteran, which is very strange to me. Why would you want to send somebody you love into a situation like that?
Right.
Is my question.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and we have a private Paducah Comics page. So of course, once that got out, a couple of guys were like, "What happened?" And so, I went in there. I was like, it was literally a misunderstanding on the audience member's part, and then they started. They got mad at the venue. It was a shit show. But we started talking about all that, and I was just like, because it was frustrating. It was very because I was like, Krish is not saying anything wrong, and it was such a misunderstanding from the audience member. I mean, there's nothing else. It was like the Kaepernick thing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I brought that up. I was like, it was like the Kaepernick thing when he knelt at for the mistreatment, or because of the mistreatment of African Americans in this country. He knelt for that. And somehow he's disrespecting the flag and our vets.
Right.
And then everybody was like, what? And the message got lost from the fucking first second.
Yeah.
And I felt like that's kind of how this was. It's like they heard what they wanted to hear. And there's absolutely... And once that gets out... I mean, you saw the post. And
right.
And I understand Night Moves trying to defend themselves. I get it. They have the absolute right.
They should.
But when because I got a message, and they weren't being rude by any means, but they were like, what happened? So I tried to explain, and I was like, I love you guys. What can I do to help you guys? And they're like, could you share the post? So I read the post, and I very respectfully disagreed with the post, because that's not what it was about. I was like, but you know what? I will share it with you. And they're like, you can make your own post, like, saying that it was a misunderstanding. We're at this moment of this situation. I was like, okay, I'll post what I felt like, and I'll share, along with your stuff. And I, if it had been where you were disrespecting veterans, I would have definitely agreed with their post. But personally, I did not agree with it because that was not the issue.
Right.
And I'll let them know, and I think they were cool with it. And then I just posted my, it was a misunderstanding between this guy and the comic, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to care that this guy made a terroristic threat.
Right!
What the fuck, man?
No, listen. I told that to my buddy DJ. I was like, I'm pretty sure he said he would rip his head off.
Yeah.
There is a recording of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, but they're not going to say that.
Violence.
So if someone's speaking terrorism, it's that guy.
No, but he's white. Can't speak
terrorism. So it's okay.
So now, well, so this is part of the reason why I was like, I need like that. I read that, so I was like, oh, I'll bring the post up so I have something like I can refer to, so I'm not misquoting anything. So I looked at it, and I saw this post, and I had to read it twice, and then I went up, and I was like, wait a minute, you responded to a combat veteran. Like a highly decorated fucking combat veteran. Yeah. That's like the bit's not anti-veteran.
Right.
And you told him that he's wrong.
Right.
And then you make a vaguely racist remark saying that he can't criticize American interventionism or anything that America does that is fucked, which there's a lot of. But there's also a lot of shit that other countries do too. It's not a perfect system, but I'm here, which is why I'm like, if I want to better the situation for people here, I'm going to use comedy as a platform to...
Correct.
Anyway, but she was basically like, no, he's of Indian descent. He doesn't get to do that. Right. And I'm like, that's not how this works. That's not what this country's built on.
Yeah.
That's not what your boyfriend or, whoever he is I'm assuming boyfriend, fought for this country. That's not what Patrick went to war for. That's not what Jason did either. The litany of veterans out there. Bill Hicks has a great joke where he talks about flag burning and people getting pissed off about it, and Bill Hicks stops to joke. It's a great joke where one of the lines is he goes, my daddy fucking went to Korea for that flag. Really? I got mine at Walmart.
Yeah.
Hey, it says made in Korea. You think there's...
yeah.
And then he goes, look, if you're upset about people burning the flag and saying that it's against veterans and what they did, you are missing the point of what veterans did. They fought for your right to set that flag on fire.
No.
And that's a Bill Hicks joke from like the late 80s, early 90s.
So relevant, yeah.
Very relevant. But that's that level of patriotism, that blind patriotism of like, well, if you love this country, right? It's this weird sense of McCarthyism that never left this country, and it should. Because if you can look at your country and go, fuck, we did some terrible things. Maybe we shouldn't anymore. And then you work on ways to fix it because you identified what the problem is and what caused it and all these other factors. I get it. It's hard. It's very hard to reconcile those things. Yeah. Like, I fuck up with her. I say some stupid shit. Oh, yeah. I do some dumb shit. And then I have to reconcile with it. Right. But if both of us are willing to forgive the person that has caused the issue, then we can at least correct what we need to correct and move forward with our lives. What this woman... And this might take time. Maybe she'll get there. Maybe she won't. I don't know. But it kind of sounds like you're saying that I'm not allowed to, I don't have rights in this country, is essentially what you're saying.
Because you're a brown man.
Because I'm brown.
Actually, she's speaking truth.
Right.
Sorry. That's not true. On the books, technically, everyone has the same rights regardless of their skin color. It's just whether or not that actually works out that way in practice.
If it's implemented or not. Yeah. And this woman is saying that it's not implemented. As if to say that if I was a white guy going up on stage, it would have been funnier. And it's like, I'm sorry. You want to know how many people threatened to kill me after 9/11? And my country had nothing to do with it.
I still get weird looks because I don't look Mexican.
No, yeah.
And I have to be very cautious when I go to the airport. Still,
Me too.
clearly. It's just
long-haired Indian dude.
Yeah, I mean, and it sucks. And you know, earlier we were talking about how you get to see when you travel this country, you get to see everything, and you see everything when you travel this country. It's the good and the bad. As much as people want to be like, and America is a great country, but there's question marks on a lot of of things because it's like, man, like I'm just here telling jokes, but you just made a serious threat against
you
me.
Threatened my life.
There was absolutely nothing that you said to him that put him in danger or in fear of anything, but he was like, "You're lucky I'm not gonna rip you, or I won't tear your fucking head off." Like, dude.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna post that on Facebook.
But they also don't know that information until somebody points it out, and that's what we've been struggling with.
Yeah.
Is the venue doesn't have all the information about it.
Right.
The people that are commenting about it don't have all the information about it.
Right.
Realistically, I have recorded evidence that he threatened my life, and if I wanted to, I could be like, I'm pressing charges.
Right.
Because this dude threatened to kill me.
Yeah.
But I'm not. Because I get it, man. You spoke out of extreme anger.
Right.
Are you taking care of that? Because it seems like it's a lot of it.
Oh, what did you say to me the other night about that? It was something like, he's probably not getting the care that he needs.
Thinking.
He's probably not getting the care that he needs.
No, it's like this beautiful, compassionate response that he gave me after I said some just like really heinous, angry shit that I didn't mean, but just needed to like spew out. And then he came back with like the most beautiful, compassionate, true thing.
Well, it goes back to his joke. He's not being taken care of appropriately. Like, people come back from war in a fucked up situation.
We're not meant to kill other people.
Right.
That's not... It goes against the... Like, here's the thing. Like, a lion doesn't kill another lion. They don't cannibalize each other. There are primates that cannibalize each other. But, we haven't studied if primates feel guilt after they... But, like, it's... Nothing in nature is like you eat your own kind or you kill your own kind for sport, for fun. It kind of goes against the values of nature. Now, yes, there are warring animals. There are animals that go to war with each other, all that sort of stuff. But to commit murder in cold blood, to go into a situation knowing that you're going to kill another human being is not what we're conditioned to do. That's not a part of our survival instincts. So when you come back from that, I've talked to veterans, and that's the hardest thing for them to get through. And if you're and we don't have any systems in place to do that. We don't. Right. So to me, I looked at that, and I was heated about it too. And I was like, man, this fucking sucks, because I fucking stand up for the South. I fucking stand up for the Midwest. And I tell people I tour these places because that's where people like really appreciate this stuff. It's not a cynical message. They get it. They understand. They want people to know that there are good people here, that party lines don't matter, that a certain label doesn't determine, whether you're a good person or not. They're all trying to get by like that. I stand up for that. And then this dude comes in and fucking proves everybody that's been shitting on the South in comedy for years in one fell swoop correct. And I'm like, man, this is so disappointing. And I was upset about it. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe his anger isn't really in check. I have anger problems, and like the person that puts me in check is her. For the most part, she fucking tells me that you're being ridiculous. Right. I don't know if that guy has anybody to do that. I don't know if there are services available for him. Is he going to see a therapist about it? Or is it just like what's happening in a lot of this country where people are watching Fox News and CNN and all this other shit, and they're being fed lies to because of corporate interest, and they're just like, yeah, we got to get those brown people either out of the country or blow them into the sand. And it's like, what the fuck?
There was too much brown in that room.
There was too much.
It's just you and I out of like 10 people. We're 20%.
He's like, I can fucking take them.
Yeah. So, well, I'm glad everything was cleared up because, and Dylan messaged me last night. I think at some point
sent me some messages as well.
Yeah, and
very kind.
Yeah, and he was like, "Should I post something?" And I didn't respond till this morning because I didn't. Well, actually, I might have responded, and I was like, I think at this point it's okay. I think it's kind of blowing over. Like people have moved on to something else. I don't really think the venue wants any more attention to it. So I was like, I think you're good. And then I saw this morning that he actually posted before I responded, and he made his own post about it. But I wanted to do this podcast because it's so much easier to discuss it and clear up everything than posting it. It is because in you don't get the context, you don't get the tone on a post, and so I'm glad that's cleared up, and hopefully people understand, because
fingers crossed,
some people will hear what they want to hear. He's still anti-vet,
right? Right, somehow it's still, the information gets conflated, and no one's like, oh, his life was threatened. But again, at the end of the day, I want that dude to be taken care of.
Right.
Regardless of whether he threatened my life or not.
Right.
That's not... Calling, filing a suit against him or whatever the fuck, pressing charges, that's not helping anything. That's not helping him understand where I'm coming from. Right. That's not helping him get any services. It's just continuing the cycle of awful shit.
Yeah.
And I hope, he is getting help. I hope that his girlfriend helps him through the anger thing and he moves forward. Maybe his kids can help him, whoever it is. And the other thing is, like, I don't want the venue to... I don't want anybody from, quote unquote, my side, people that are anti-war and pro-vet, and to see the problems in this country. There were some troll posts. Some of them were funny. Some of the memes were kind of funny.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I chuckled at some of the memes. But I don't want them to attack the venue.
Yeah.
The venue is trying to make sure that they understand that people can still come here and have a good time.
Yeah.
And the people at the bar get defensive. The venue owner, the employees, they're all going to get defensive.
Yeah, it's their livelihood.
Yeah, and trash them.
Yeah, they've been great to us, man. And I can't say enough good things about them. We do have, and we'll wrap up here. We do have a segment called Try It. Where we talk about one of our favorite restaurants that we've been to in our travels. Yeah. Do you guys have anything, one that you guys, that kind of sticks out? Not El Torito. That's a Paducah.
Man, there's so much food. I think for me, it was...
hold on, I got a jingle. Do, try it. This is a segment we like to... Yeah, we don't have music in this podcast, so I have to make up my own jingle.
I love it. That's awesome.
So, all right, continue with your...
what was it? I think it was like the Himalayan curry something.
Yeah, Himalayan Curry House, I think.
Himalayan Curry House. It's in... It's near Seattle. And I think they're pretty new. If you're in the Seattle area, you could check this place out. It's so good.
Yeah.
And the owner is the guy that seats you.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
He's fucking right there.
Yeah.
And
I love
we were
those.
like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is some of the best Indian food we've had. And then he was like, yeah, I got a chef that's been in the industry for like 15 years, and so I just, he asked him if he wanted to be a part of this new venture, and he was super excited.
Yeah.
And like kind of gave us the backstory of the restaurant.
Oh,
and I was
love
like, this
that.
is so great.
I love
nice
that.
little hole in the wall.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Oh man, it was such good food.
Those are our favorites, man.
Such good food. Yeah.
That reminds me of where was it? It's called Indian Palace in Somerset, Kentucky. It's one of those like random ass like towns that you're like, zombies live here.
Yeah.
And I was stationed there to work at a hospital, and I kept driving by this Indian place, and I think I had tried Indian food maybe one time at like a party. Some friends of mine, they were like, "Hey, we're having a party, come on!" And I think my mom went and helped them out. It was a huge thing. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I finally had a day off, and I stopped by, and it was this guy. I guess it was the owner, the host, the server.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, how can I help you?" I was like, "Dude, I've never had this. What would you recommend?" I think it was chicken masala, tikka masala.
Yeah.
And
that's the classic.
I think he was like, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna like ease him in with this. Dude, it was phenomenal. And anytime after that, I was like, anytime I go to a bigger city, I have to try like the Indian food there. So I've been to like Boston, Nashville, Chicago. I can't remember if we've been to St. Louis, but anywhere we go, Charleston, we had any. I'm like,
yeah, it's so good,
dude. And it makes me upset that people like Laura Lee's mom.
Yeah,
she watched Along Came Polly and how they. Ben Stiller ate like something spicy and he shit his brains out.
Yeah.
And so now she was like, "Well, Along Came Polly." I'm like, "No, it's not
but
like
it's
that.
not that. Yeah.
It's not
There's
anything
spice
like that.
levels.
Right.
You gotta
I was
get
like,
the
"There's
right
a
level,
1 to
man.
10. Get a fucking 0." Like.
Well, because we split stuff. We usually get like a medium or like a 5.
Yeah.
Because you can still taste stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like if they go up to a 10, order a 5. If they go up to a 5, order like a 2.
Yeah.
Stay on the safer side of it,
right,
because
right.
2 to a 3 might jump exponentially, and it's like, holy shit, what's happening?
Yeah.
I can smell colors.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I panicked. Yeah.
Well, I might actually be in Seattle either this weekend or next, because we're talking about my dad.
Yeah.
So I'll
Himalayan Curry House.
House.
I can double check because I'm in Yelp, but I'm like trying to find my favorite one so far, which is also Indian food, but I have this kind of obsession with going to Hindu temples. Because I just feel good there. I feel good in most religious houses because it's like, there's usually a message of love behind religion and religious, like churches in general. I like churches and things. So I found, this was actually, I didn't find the temple. I was still looking for wedding stuff and a nice skirt or a lehenga, which is like an Indian skirt.
Gotcha.
And I found this shop. And I think it was run by Hare Krishna people, and there's a shop up top, and then below is a cafe with a buffet, like an all-you-can-eat vegetarian and vegan Indian food buffet. Yeah. And it was incredible. Yeah. So I go up top to the shop, which has like some of the best, most reasonably priced Indian clothes that I have found. And I don't know jack shit about Indian clothes, okay? So it's like what fabrics, what's designer, what's in style. I don't know. I liked it though, and I could afford it. Not all of it. But I found something there that I really liked, and I looked through several states trying to find something. I found it at this shop. And then there was the buffet, and then they had a temple, and I go to the temple, and they're about to have arti, which is like the prayer ceremony, right? Am I explaining it right?
It's just a way to show that you're appreciative of the gods, like you are a devotee. So you ask for their blessings by doing this prayer ritual. And like the community's involved, and sometimes there's food involved.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a big community building thing. Yeah. Did you find it?
No, I didn't find it. I thought I did. Okay, so and they're like doing kirtan, which is like a singing ritual. That's it's not Hare Krishna specific, but it's like a Hare Krishna kirtan.
What town was it?
This is in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I didn't mention that already. I was really surprised by how much I liked Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I go into the temple, and I go in, and like the woman there is like, "Oh, sit down."
Yeah.
They're always really welcoming. Like
yeah.
I guess there's pushy Hare Krishnas, but I haven't really run into them myself. They've always been super awesome and welcoming. Like, here, have this food, sing with us, let's dance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome. And the woman's like, "Are you gonna join us?" And I'm like, "I have to get groceries." I'd been there for hours at this point.
Yeah.
And I wanted to stay so bad. And I'm so glad that I left, because it ended up being very difficult to get to Trader Joe's after that. And did we have a show that night?
No.
You had a show that night?
I had a
we
show
had to be
in
somewhere.
Hawthorne, California, which is like 45 minutes outside of LA. Without traffic. So like I had gone to do a different podcast, and it was yeah, so I ended up sitting at this bar with Wi-Fi and like doing work while she was coming back, and she was like, "I'm just so stressed out about this Trader Joe's parking."
It's LA. You're gonna park in LA. What's not easy?
If Laura Lee was out here, she would tell you, I called her so many times from LA just looking for parking. Like, I would have to call her to keep from going insane. Like, I lived there for 6 months, but my license plate was still from here, my license was still from here, so I couldn't get a parking permit for a street there. So I would have to go like a block down the road where it was, first come, first served parking for as long, and there was no street cleaning there. That's the other thing. When you find... You have to be aware of street cleaning, or they will tow your car.
Yes.
Oh, they'll tow it.
Yeah, and you will never know. Won't. You have to call every fucking tow company in LA
because they don't tell you which one it is.
Right?
Oh, what the fuck?
So this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that's everywhere. So it's ISKCON, ISKCON. That's normal everywhere for Hare Krishna worshippers, I guess. Mm-hmm. Devotees. I'm sorry. Hare Krishna devotees. And the name of the shop is Govindas. Mm-hmm. Govindas Gift Shop. It is amazing. The shop is amazing. The food is amazing. And the temple is really beautiful. And they were all so nice. I'm like trying on stuff, and they're like, "Come out and show us what you have on. Oh, that's so pretty. That one's pretty too." It was just
buy it.
It was
buy
so
it. Buy it.
It wasn't pushy like that though. Yeah. It was like these shopkeep ladies who really wanted to be like, "Oh, show me when you have it on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so pretty. Oh, that seems like it's a little big. That seems like it's like." They were so helpful. It was great. And I reviewed it on Yelp. I use Yelp to find everything. That's the Lenga that I got.
We use that's awesome. We use an app called Square. What is it? Foursquare. Is it Foursquare?
Yeah.
Really? Foursquare still does stuff?
I think they've switched to being a more Yelp type thing. Yeah. Because I used to be... I
used to love it.
Man, I used to get so many badges.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And then they switched to Swarm, and I was just like, no.
Yeah. I can write that one down for me on this piece of paper, because I like to give them a little plug.
Govindas or Yelp?
Govindas,
yeah. They're cool. I was kind of bummed, because like when she mentioned that to me, I was like... Oh man, that sounds fucking rad. Yeah. Like, I wish you got Indian food. I'm just eating bar chips right now.
Yeah,
like,
but you did the podcast. What was the podcast?
Sleeping with Sarah is what it's called. Sarah Albrighton is a comic out of Chicago. Okay. She lives in LA now. Okay. But she does a podcast in her bed. So you just kind of hang out, like, above the sheets and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'm just clarifying.
No, like, you go do that. I'm going shopping.
Yeah, so the whole... she has narcolepsy, so the whole thing is about, like, sleeping and comedy and just whatever. Yeah. So, obviously, I was involved. We ended up talking about, like, weird political shit and touring and comedy and all that stuff. Yeah. And, like, yeah, we actually talked about some weird sleep issues that I've had, like... it was super fun. It was a really fun podcast to do, and then she was like so hyped up about this place. It's adorable when she gets all.
And there were parking rules like 1 or 2 hours, and I had to like keep moving my car because I was there so long.
Or just like back out and then just go back in.
Oh my gosh,
dude! I did that because there were and parking people hate me. I hate them too.
How much debt are you in because of parking?
It's
like,
fine.
It's so bad.
It's just a couple $100.
I don't know. Is it hundreds back. Or are we into thousands? I don't remember.
No, when I become a superhero, yeah, they'll fear my wrath. It's fine. You know, like if I become Spider-Man, like it's sure is the Green Goblin a problem? Yeah, but really, who's the menace destroying the middle class? In some way, it's the parking authority, and now I'm gonna have to go take care of it.
I agree.
City to city, using my spider abilities. So if there's any parking people listening, just I don't know. Maybe if I get superpowers, you're on my shit list.
I mean, all I hear is that you're anti-parking.
I'm super anti-parking authority. I'll fucking come out. I have gotten into more fights with parking authority than I have people misunderstanding my comedy.
Yeah.
But I did that once where it was like 1 hour parking and then you have to move your car, and I think it was like somewhere in Michigan, and they were like, no, they'll like it's like a $75 ticket, and I was like, what? And they're like, it's stupid, we know, but just like move your car a block away, but like all you have to do is like move your car, like it just can't be in that spot at the end of the 2 hours. And I was like, okay. So I looped around the block, couldn't find anything, but the spot that I was in was still open. It's like, man, I don't know if this is allowed or not.
No.
Here's the hilarious part. I went around the block again, and that spot's still open, and I see the parking person, and she stares at me, and I stare back at her, and I very creepily pulled back into the same parking spot I was in, shut the door, locked my car, and I just looked at her, and she just looked at me. And once I got back to the coffee shop, I was like, I don't think that person knows my history with parking authority, and I don't think she knew that my car had been parked there for a while already.
Yeah.
I didn't get a ticket. Like by the time I got back out there, I had to pack up and leave anyway. But like, I've totally fucking done that before and gotten away with it.
I was starting to get a little excited because when you started with Himalayan, there was a restaurant in Illinois, in LA, that is by the similar name. So I was like, oh, is it the same place that I went to in LA? And it was not. Yours was in Seattle.
Yeah, ours was in Seattle.
But let me see if I can, because it's called Himalayan. There's House of Curry in LA. Bollywood, House of Curry, Chris Star.
Bollywood House of
Star
Curry.
India.
It's funny if you go and eat like food from different cultures, like more ethnic food, you start to pick up on like trends and names.
Yeah.
Like curry house is a big trend in the name. Bollywood whatever, like Bollywood grill, Bollywood curry house.
Yeah.
The word palace being involved in any sort of Indian food is also like an interesting trend. But like Chinese food is the one that kind of gets me, is like Sichuan palace, Sichuan house, something with the word dragon in it, tea house.
Yeah.
But it's like a Chinese food restaurant. They're all like very China Star. Oh my God, China Stars are fucking in every city.
Number one.
Yeah.
Chinese something.
Yeah, they're like every fucking city has a China star there. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I think is it Tara's Himalayan cuisine? I think so. Himalayan house, Himalayan hut, Himalayan. Yeah, but there's one place in LA that's similar, so it's really, really good. So I kind of got excited for a second.
That's awesome.
But, cool, man. So where you guys gonna be next?
We are headed up to Indiana. So we're doing Evansville on Wednesday, Bloomington, Indianapolis, and then the following week I'm doing the St. Louis Fringe from August 17th through the 19th. So she's going to open up some comedy shows in order for me to like do the full hour, because I haven't been able to do the full hour this whole tour, just to kind of get back into the practice of doing the whole thing. Plus there's some new shit that I've written, and I'm real bad with how long my stuff is. So it's like, if I can use those 2 shows to, 1, work out my hour, 2, figure out how long the show is and what I need to abridge, yeah, I would.
Yeah. You guys have a website or just Facebook?
Yes. My website is ramennoodlescomedy.com. That's RAMAN noodlescomedy.com.
Okay. I'll write that down in the show notes.
Yeah, and my Twitter handle is @KrishMohan haha.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I am lissvictory.com. That's lissvictory.com.
Liz.
And you can find that anywhere. So if you just put in LISS Victory, Liss Victory, it's @LissVictory on Twitter and Instagram. And the Facebook, I kind of got screwed over by some lady in Utah who hasn't used her Facebook since 2012. So I need to get famous so I can get that trademark. Because it's really expensive if you're not famous. So it's facebook.com/LissVictoryMusic. But other than that, everything else is Liss Victory. Fuck that lady in Utah.
We did not find her when we went through Utah. No. She did not.
I tried messaging her. But even, you can't get it, even if you're like, hey, can I have your URL? Like, Facebook isn't going to do that. You have to just be famous. Like, that's the only way. I did the research. It's, really the only way you can get it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you guys have safe travels.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, man.
Thank you, Jorge.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
You guys check them out. Very funny, very talented. And please, anytime you see Liz, give her a fresh mayo packet. Bye, guys.